this week I was in Sacramento, and when I try to find a parking lot, a truck stop that'll take me, I headed over to the Pilot in Sacramento, and they only have paid parking. Really frustrating. So I ended up at this casino in Lincoln, near Sacramento, and it had great parking, lots of parking. The place is called Thunder Valley Casino and Resort. That's right. You know what time it is. It's time for Business Bites. Business Bites. So for this week's Business Bites, I wanted to talk about a way to retire being active and still having a business that could generate some money. So one of the things that I thought about was getting a piece of land in a nice, desirable location that people want to go to and turning it into a campsite. You can get cheap land with either great views or a lot of trees, not too far away from a main road, and create a huge campsite. Now, why are you creating this huge campsite when there's already campsites out there? It's because you make it a little bit better than what's being offered by the state or by the federal government. You make it very easy to do glamping. So I would suggest that purchasing a piece of land a little bit off the road that has some kind of a gas station and also some kind of a mini market, and you basically turn that into a general store. And then you clear out campsites throughout the property and make it easy for you to drive your vehicles in. But what you do is you make most of your money, not so much from providing these campsites, but from your general store that's going to be located right next to the campsites. So it's like going camping without going off-grid or going completely away from society. I know there's a lot of campsites out there that are close to the road or whatnot, but the way that you do this is you give it the illusion of camping in the woods, but you might not be even that deep into the woods or into the mountains, Anyway, a lot of your money is going to be made by prepping things and providing things that normally people would not buy at a campsite. I'm talking like pre-prepped meat, barbecue meat, barbecue sauce, so that they can, do what they do right there. You provide the s'mores in your general store. You provide a lot of things that would be kind of glamping and give people a good experience. Not everybody wants to go hardcore camping, and you make this very scalable so the people that do want to do hardcore camping, they can. But the people that want to basically glamp or take it easy, they just want to sleep in the tent in a campground somewhere, and you provide that. But they're not in the middle of nowhere. They're not off the grid. So, and this is not a hardcore campsite. It's more of a city-friendly campsite. People that are from the city that normally don't go hardcore camping, but they still want to get away, and you make it really easy to get in, get out. You provide everything from the store so that they don't have to drive 30 minutes to the next store down the highway to get whatever they forgot to get. Everything is there, and then if you have a little diner attached to it, that's where you make your money, food, general store, fuel. But you draw the customers in by having a huge piece of cheap land that you could convert into campsites. That was my business idea while I was driving and thinking about so many things this week, but that's what came to my mind. Life's funny way of reminding you not to be so critical to other people and keep you humble. So today I was at Costco and I was pushing my cart. As I was going through this narrow aisle, the guy in front of me hits this jug of mango juice, and that jug hits the ground, cap pops off, and juice goes flying everywhere. Luckily, it didn't get all over my clothes. There were some splashes, but not the end of the world. But one drop hit my eye. You can't make this stuff up, right? And when something hits your eye like that, you have a quick reaction to jerk back. And then, some words came out of my mouth because it shocked me, some words that probably are not pleasant. And I didn't say it out loud. I didn't blow up. I didn't explode. But I was like, And the guy looked at me like, first he was sorry, and then he thought about it, looked at me, and nothing, in his eyes, nothing really happened to me. So he kind of dismissed the situation as if it was like I'm overreacting or something. He doesn't know that juice hit my eye, right? I didn't deal with it. I didn't care about it. I just kept moving. But a little bit later, it started irking me like, what an idiot. Why did that guy drop that jug of juice and ruin my, splash me and hit my eye? And, it's like annoying. And so, it kind of comes back and on rewind, it just comes back and what a jerk. And I'm thinking, who hits a jug of juice like that and drops it, right? And as I get to my car, I finish loading up my car, close everything down, open my driver door, and I kid you not, I can't make this up, my little case that I have with my 2 Bluetooth earpieces drops on the ground, opens up, and both earpieces go slide right into the middle of my car underneath in the parking lot. And I'm like, I don't know, why did I drop that? I don't know. I mean, stuff like that happens. It's not like we intend to do it. That guy didn't intend to knock that jug of juice over, you know. I didn't intend to drop the stupid earbuds into the ground and into the middle. Yeah, you know, you get your pants dirty, you squat down, you get your pants dirty and have to try to retrieve it, and then next thing you know what, it's probably a better idea if you put your hazards on and back up and then pick it up from, you know. Anyway, don't be too harsh on other people, because we pretty much make similar mistakes all the time, you know. Life will remind you that you shouldn't be too harsh on other people's imperfections when we ourselves are so imperfect. What's going on, my people? So this week was one of the worst weeks ever. In terms of expectations, in terms of frustration levels, in terms of wanting to do the right thing, but constantly feeling like you're getting your wings clipped and being told to stay put, hang tight. You know, it's like you're ready to fly, but they tell you to wait, and then you miss your opportunity and the week's over. And they basically tell you, you got next week to fly. Now, I don't know about most of you guys, but when we work as over the road or regional dedicated, you're in the truck at least 5-6 days straight, and then you come home, and then you reset, and then you start it up all over again. Some of the over the road guys, they are on the road and they don't even get to go home. They just reset in random places and then, you know, continue for like 3-4 weeks and then come back and then do a reset, and you know. Anyway, I am not living out of a truck just to make a little bit of money, you know. And people, I mean, you have to kind of shift your mentality here. You can talk about per hour rate, you could talk about per mile rate, but actually my clock starts the minute I get in my truck. And even the nights that I'm sleeping and everything else, I'm away from home. That's not my free time. I mean, yeah, I'm not like technically driving or doing like company stuff, but you know, realistically, what fulfillment in life are you going to get inside of a truck, really? You know. And these are some of the challenges of being a sleeper cab truck driver. You know, you're going to be in the truck and you're going to be missing out on chunks of life, being cuddled up with your significant other, watching Netflix on the couch. You're not going to do that, you know. So when I leave the house until I get back home, that's work for me, because you're sacrificing your normal everyday life. And for them not to give me my miles is bad. When we're living out of that truck, we're making a lot of sacrifices. So that chunk of time has to equal up to a decent pay at the end of the week. So if we're sitting there and we work 5 full days, I'm talking 14 hours, 70 hours that week, that's legally permitted. And even though all that other time we're sleeping in the truck and we're hanging out in the truck and we're inside the truck, you know? So that time is what we're actually getting paid for, you know? And so a lot of companies know this. They pay you a little bit better. You know, a lot of times we get good pay compared to like some day cab drivers or whatnot. Now, that's an equation that you have to calculate, and you got to figure out, does it make sense for you financially to do this? So right now, this is where it's tough for me, because pretty much consistently, I've been doing okay. I've been doing pretty good. But the last couple weeks have been really bad. And, you know, we face this once in a while. If you see my previous videos, there's times when I'm really upset that they're not giving me my miles. And this week, I think I ended up with 1,700 and change miles. 2 trips up to NorCal and back, and some crazy, unrealistic waiting times. Just completely outrageous. You know, I'm talking about, you get there, you check in after you've already waited like, I don't know how long, you know, the appointment times are all screwy, and so you've got like a day and a half to, you know, drive 7 hours and then make a delivery. What do you do with the rest of the time? You're working basically like 8 hours now, I don't know, and then the rest of that 20 hours or whatever, you're just sitting there picking your butt. It's not productive, it's not work, it's, you know. So why do I say all of this stuff? Is because it has to make sense, dollars wise, effort wise, what you're sacrificing in life versus the amount of money you're bringing in. And if that equation over time, because you know, you're gonna have good weeks and bad weeks, and unfortunately I've had a couple bad weeks, but if this keeps continuing, over time, that's going to be the new norm. And if that becomes a new norm, then we have to ask serious questions. But there are dips and there are peaks. And so the frustration is keep us driving, keep us busy so we don't sit there picking our butt and so we can make money and we can make the company money. Because when we sit around, we're not making the company money. Anyway, that was my short little rant and some of the things I went through this week. But now I want to talk about this divide in our culture, in our communities, in our politics, in our generations, the older generation, younger generation, in our, left versus right, in our religious versus non-religious, big chunks of America. And these topics are very, very like voodoo. You can't really talk about these topics because it triggers arguments, triggers debates, and triggers separation of relationships, and triggers, people to not be friends anymore or not, communicate anymore. Family members to stop talking to each other. There's a lot of things that go on. People even getting divorced. And I want to talk about this self-righteousness that I think is prevalent in every group, every age group, every type of divided community, every differing view, So the older generation, when the younger generation sometimes looks at them, they look at them as having issues because they can't conform to the new ideas, the right way of doing things. But then that agenda that the younger generation pushes is also very, relevant to them. And what was relevant to the older generation is what they thought was living out life the right way. From my experience, I see all of these things happening, and the right way to live is XYZ. And that's how they live, and that's how they love other people, by telling them how other people should live, because they feel like this is the right way to do things. And these people don't have bad intentions, even though they have strong attitudes and beliefs and opinions. They're at the core, these people want what's better for family, friendship, relationship, community, church, country, local government. This is what they want because this is what they figured out in their life, and that this is what they're pushing for, the right way to do things. Now, on the flip side, a lot of the other side of people, they have their XYZ reasons why they're living life the way they do, or they're pushing the agendas that they want to push, the fights that they're fighting, the battles that they're fighting. And you have to ask yourself, which battles are actually worth fighting? So I'm saying a lot of these things because this is a good way to have more understanding so that you could get along well with other people and not be so self-consumed with our ideas and how we approach life. There's a lot of diversity and there's a lot of different approaches to life, but to hate on others is very myopic, it's very short-sighted. Now, a lot of this hate feels like it's justified sometimes because there's the bigger establishment, the older generation, the established generation, the established church, the established religious organization, whatever. And then you've got these other people who felt like they've been on the short end of the stick, fighting or rebelling or lashing back out, or trying to speak up with their voice. And for in terms of justice and in terms of doing what's fair and right, I get it. Like sometimes, yeah, you need to put that energy forward. But if you're sitting there and your lifestyle is fighting these senseless battles for stupid reasons, when we don't even take a couple steps back and think, because sometimes, a lot of times, it feels okay to say certain things to one group of people, but you can't say it to another group of people. You could say things to a certain big organization, religion, government, but you can't say that to, a small group, the minority group. Anyway, at the end of the day, just be smart on what battles you're fighting and how much energy and focus you're putting in. I think a lot of stuff can be solved with giving room for people to be different, and also giving room for understanding why the establishment or the older generation or the people that have been there and done that, why they do the things that they do, and why they chose that approach. Remember, a lot of people try to make the best hand with the cards they're dealt. And depending on when you grew up and the limited amount of resources you had, information you had, what was right, what was wrong, just data, that could determine how our approach to life was limited. Now, these days, there's a lot more information, but there's also a lot of noise. a lot of stuff that's not as strong or pertinent. And then also, there's a lot of things that people dismiss as bad that's actually really good. You know, I really believe that a healthy family unit is good. You know, I'm talking mom, dad, kids. I know there are people that have horrible family units, dysfunctional family units. I know people that have family units that are, you know, they make it work with different approaches to life. And I get that. And, but to dismiss the original structure of a father, mother, kids, family, you know, family, to dismiss that or diminish that is upsetting. I think it's really important that we have a wider view, a wider lens on these divisions that are constantly being created in our society, in our families, and in our relationships, small and big. And be aware what's going on, what's tearing us down, and is it really that big of a battle to fight over or be separated about, having these two massive divisions in our country and even in politics. You know, not being able to think for yourself and not to decipher what I like, what I don't like. And it doesn't even matter what party you are. You know, if I like this idea, I like it. If I like that idea, I like it. But when a certain party champions one idea and you align with that, and then all of a sudden, hook, line, and sinker, you take A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all their ideology, and you have to adapt to liking that because you're that party. How brain dead is that? It is completely brain dead. You know, life isn't that cookie cutter simple, you know. You need to make your individual choices on individual things and your approaches to life. Check your self-righteousness. And I'm not talking about just the established older generation, the established organizations and whatnot, but even the people that are fighting against or rebelling against or progressively making a change for the better, you know, because you might throw out the baby with the bathwater if you're not careful. Anyway, those were just my thoughts this week. Had a lot of time to think about a lot of weird things, so excuse me if it was completely, you know, mind-numbing. Anyway, I hope you guys have a good week. I hope you guys stay safe out there if you're driving. God bless all of you. And the warmer weeks are ahead, so stay cool out there. And until next time, peace. Cheers.